If you're watching this video, you're probably struggling with building your first B2B list, or you've tried to start building it and you've figured out that the list is either unclean or not actually the types of ICP targets that you're looking for. Well, if you stick around to the end of this video, you're going to know exactly the tools to use to build B2B company lists and find the actual decision makers at those companies, as well as their validated email addresses, phone numbers, LinkedIn links, whatever you need. And if you stick to the very end of the video, I'm going to give you a bonus tool that not many people know about, but is amazing for building lists that are quite tricky or where the companies don't look similar to other companies. And as always, if you're interested in B2B growth and you need help on growing your B2B company, simply book a call with the link below and we can have a quick chat about the services we offer and how we grow B2B companies. But without further ado, I'm going to show you exactly how to build a perfect B2B company list. So the first stage of this is getting the raw company data. So what we need is either ideally the company's official domain, so their website domain, or the company's full name. That is really all you need to start with. And there are tons of different tools you can use for this depending on what industry you're in. So starting with like, imagine you're in e-commerce. Some good tools you can use would be like builtwith.com or store leads. This basically will show you all of the companies using Shopify or WooCommerce, and you can just scrape their domain names from there. If you were more in like SaaS, you could use Ocean.io. This Ocean's quite good because it gives you lookalike domain options, so you can add in company domains that are your ideal customer profile, put them into Ocean, and Ocean will try and find similar companies to them. Crunchbase is really good because its filters are amazing for example, funding or finding investors. It's really useful for that. Apify can be really useful if you need more of a custom solution. So, for example, you're scraping Google listings or Instagram or TikTok. Basically, there's usually going to be a scraper for any situation that you're looking for with them. You can build your own custom scrapers for very specific situations. For example, like there's a custom directory that's very specific to your industry and you really want to scrape it, but there's nothing on Apify that's already been built. You can build your own scraper and scrape the list of companies from those directories. And then if you're looking for companies that have less of like a LinkedIn presence or less of an online presence, Outscraper can be quite good for like local businesses because you can scrape Google Maps listings and filter by the type of company they are. So if you're looking for plumbers, you can scrape all the plumbers from a certain area using that as well. If you're looking for like more advanced strategies, you can use triggers. So Triggerfy or RB2B. RB2B basically reveals the companies that have been viewing your website. I think it's only available in the UK because of GDPR, but that can be really useful. So if you know someone from that company has viewed your website, you can get their domain and then you can find the decision makers in the next step here. But basically, once you've got their domain name, that's pretty much all you need from this first step. The next step is actually building your draft list, like your first draft of companies and decision makers. And this is usually where you're going to be using Apollo.io. So you would push this list of domains that you found from these other tools and you'd push it into Apollo. And Apollo would then pull up all the companies that match those domains that it has on the system. And then you can use Apollo's filters to basically find the people with specific job titles that fit your ICP. So whether that's founder, owner, CEO. And then you can use Apollo's keyword matching. So if you go into the company section on Apollo, you'll probably see some companies that don't fit your criteria, and you'll see some companies that do fit your criteria. A little trick is if you look at the companies that do fit your criteria, you can usually compare the keywords that are in on Apollo's system for them and then add them into the filters so that it only shows you other companies with those keywords. You can also use the industry filter to filter out like marketing agencies or other similar businesses like SaaS companies that aren't actually that specific type of company you're looking for. But this should give you a decent starter list of decision makers and people and the type of companies that you're looking for, the right size, the right employee counts, all of that. But it's not going to be perfect. Um, this is where the next step comes in, which is Clay. So you take that list, you push it into Clay, and this is where we clean the list first. So we can use AI agents like Clayagent to basically check whether the job titles are correct. For example, you don't want, if you're reaching out to CEOs, you don't want to be reaching out to the assistant of the CEO. And a lot of the time, Apollo can actually give you that type of job title. So we want to clean this list and make sure that we're only reaching out to the people we really want to target. We can also enrich the list using Clay. So we can find their validated email addresses because you can't trust the ones from Apollo. Um, we can find any missing email addresses from contacts who didn't have email addresses in the Apollo list. We can find validated mobile numbers. We can also find their LinkedIn profiles, URLs, so that we can reach out using automated LinkedIn tools like HeyReach or there's tons of them. And then the next thing we can do is actually score the leads. So whatever enrichment you can think of, we can usually do on these company accounts. So you can look for revenue, you can look for funding rounds, and then you can score the leads based on whether they fit the criteria you're looking for. And then the final part is we can actually build our outreach in here as well. So we can use AI to actually personalize our messaging, do research on the decision maker, what they're posting online, see if there's been any big PR releases or announcements about the company recently that we can talk about, that can anything that can basically make our messaging more relevant and show that we've actually done some research on these companies, even though we're automating this at scale. And then the final part, once you've done all this, you should have a clean list of companies that fit your ICP, the right decision makers, and reaching out to them with a message that's actually relevant to them and valuable. The final part of this is just pushing that data to whichever sender you're sending on. So if you're doing cold email, it might be Smart Lead or Instantly. If you're reaching out on LinkedIn, it might be HeyReach. If you're using cold callers, it would be a different system, maybe close.com. But yeah, I promised you that I would give you a bonus tip at the end. And this is what I was promising, the bonus, discolike.com. So if you have an industry that is quite tricky, where the companies are in the same ICP, but no company looks like each other. So, for example, plumbers, all of these plumbing companies look pretty similar, whereas data vendors all look very different. So you may have a data vendor like Mastercard; they sell data, but then there's also a data vendor like Nasdaq. They're both data vendors, they sell data, but they don't look like each other at all. And these kinds of lists can be very hard to build using traditional tools because there's no filters that can show you them. So what we can use is DiscoLike. DiscoLike is basically a tool that looks for specific keywords on certain websites and looks for trends in those keywords to basically be able to assume that they are a similar type of company. So I'll just give you a quick overview. You in the top you can add in lookalike domains. So if you know a few examples of companies that do fit your ICP, you can add them in here, and you can also add in companies that don't fit your ICP in there as well. You can add in 10 good ones and 10 bad ones, so that's kind of the max. And then if you press this button here, it will then AI will go to each one of the good companies and kind of get a description of what they look like and add it in here. You can then add in filters about like the country they're in, the employee count, and then one really important part here is make sure the maximum records is set to 100 to start with. When you press submit, you'll get a list of all the companies that they found on like their database that match the certain keyword you're looking for. You want to go through this, and if there are good fits, you want to thumb them up. If there are bad fits, you want to put thumbs down. And then you press submit again, and you keep on doing this until the list is pretty dialed in. Once the list is dialed in and most of them are actually good fits, you can then increase the maximum records to a much higher amount and get the full list of companies. You can then push that data into Clay and do a similar strategy as we were doing here, where we basically like clean the list, enrich, score the leads, personalize. And that can really help you out with trickier lists that are harder to find. So cool. if you got to the end of the video, thank you for watching the whole thing. If you're interested in growing your B2B service company or B2B SaaS company, you can book a call with the link below and we can have a chat about what services would work best for you. We offer a range of services from cold outreach to paid ads to SEO, anything that we think can help B2B companies grow. Other than that, thanks for watching the video and have a great day.